Welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Jason McIntyre here with LeVar Arrington and Rick Bucher. Marcellus Wiley and Emmanuel Acho are off today. Let's get started with the big news in New Orleans. Jameis Winston was named the starting QB for the Saints this season, according to Adam Schefter. Winston won the spot over Taysom Hill and will be the Saints QB not named Drew Brees for the first time in the last 16 years. So, Rick Bucher, can Jameis carry the torch from Drew Brees?
Yes, he can carry the torch from Drew Brees. I, never questioned the talent of Jameis Winston. It was only the maturity. And what I've seen of him in New Orleans, particularly this preseason, is that he is a changed man. We're not getting any more of the eating the winning fingers. We're not stealing crab legs. We're not having the wacky, emotional, up with people, rah-rah, motivational speeches to the team. None of that. We are seeing a composed Jameis Winston. He has played some fantastic football, and in times past, we would have seen him geek out over some of the throws that he had to Marquez Callaway. Instead, we saw a guy who ran down the field, gave him a little dap, and then was back to the sideline and back to business. When Sean Payton stopped him after he had a 3-and-out and had something to say to him, it wasn't talking back. He wasn't making excuses. Eye to eye, listened to what had to be said, kept it moving. That is a different Jameis Winston than we have seen in the past. And I think one of the things that we sometimes forget is that Drew Brees wasn't Drew Brees before he got to New Orleans. And we're now seeing Jameis Winston go through the same evolution. If you look at the first 4 years of Drew Brees' career and you compare it to the first 4 years of Jameis Winston actually was a more efficient, effective quarterback overall if we're counting TDs and interceptions. So I'm seeing a Jameis Winston who's under the guidance of a Sean Payton, who is learning how to be efficient, how to make the right plays. And by the way, the last time we saw Drew Brees, it wasn't the gold standard of Drew Brees. Was he still efficient? Yes, as much as ever. Was he as productive? Not nearly as productive as the heyday of Drew Brees. And ultimately, was he dynamic? No. Lowest yardage per game that he produced since his last year in San Diego. So can Jameis Winston, I guess the question is, in carrying the torch, can Jameis Winston get them to a playoff berth? Yeah, I think he can. And essentially, that's what carrying the torch at this point from Drew Brees means.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rick. I think you made a lot of great points there. I like the comparisons there with those two stats in particular. He can carry the torch. And in fact, when you think about what Jameis Winston has represented, he has represented high achievement, winning the Heisman in college, being an overall top draft pick in the league. He's just turned the ball over. He just hasn't been, he's worked to be a leader, but I do believe that there were maybe he needed some time to grow up, is what we'll say. Sometimes failure can be the best teacher and the best hardening and maturing of a person. You go through adversity, you go through trials, you go through tribulations, and there's a moment in time, do you decide to give up on yourself, or do you sink in and dig in and find yourself? It looks as though by all of the off-season videos that we've seen of Jameis Winston, all of the training that he did during the course of last season, no complaining, no crazy sound bites, no anything that would lead you to believe that Jameis Winston has taken more of a step backwards in his career than actually regrouping and taking steps forward. They always say the setback is the setup if you're approaching things the right way. Jameis Winston, can he carry the torch? Just 8 QBs ever to reach 5,000 yards in a single passing season. You know one of those 8? Drew Brees. Since 2015, Jameis Winston has the 11th most passing yards at 19,812 yards. That's a gang of yardage. He's 11th most in passing TDs as well at 121. You know, only Peyton Manning is higher than that in the history in the first 5 seasons of their career. In the history. So if anything, if Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael Jr. can actually get him to a place, which it seems they have, where he's more cerebral and more aware of why he's turning the ball over. If they have actually quarterback whispered Jameis Winston, it's never been about talent. It's never been about what he's capable of doing. It's been all about between the ears with Jameis, and is he going to be that guy between the ears, not physically. It looks as though he's taken that step forward, J-Mac. And so to me, not only is he on a trajectory where he could take that torch, he might be able to put that torch down and pick up a Jameis Winston torch.
Boy, I love the optimism, guys. I mean, geez, LeVar's gassed up. Man, Jameis Winston, he's taking that torch.
Here we
Rick
go.
Bucher, oh, boy, Rick, talking a lot of nonsense. Like the last time we saw Drew Brees, he was not very good. Let me take a quick timeout, little 30-second timeout, and remind you guys, what did we see from Jameis Winston the last time he was a starter? Because, you know, last year he was in New Orleans, and Sean Payton was like, nah, you're not ready. Give me Taysom Hill. Jameis Winston, starter in Tampa, 2019. He wasn't throwing to bums. He wasn't throwing to plumbers and bartenders. He was throwing to Mike Evans and Godwin, 2 elite receivers.
And safeties.
Jameis, 30-30 club, first member in NFL history. That's 30 interceptions, along with 33 touchdowns. He led the league. You know what? He actually set an NFL record with 7 pick sixes. His final pass of the season was a pick 6 in overtime. Say goodbye, Jameis. It was over. Guys, I don't know why you're so optimistic about Jameis Winston and this new, kinder, gentler Jameis Winston. Oh, he's so mature now. You don't even mention he got LASIK in the offseason. I thought that would be the lead for you, Rick. Jameis can now see again. We're all excited for him. Just let's look at the reality. When Hall of Fame quarterbacks step down, teams take a big step back. I mean, you can look through history. John Elway walks away from Denver. They lose 4 more games. Peyton Manning leaves Denver. They lose more games. Look at Tom Brady last year. Hall of Famer, leaves New England. They crater. It is a fact. Look back 20, 25 years in the league. When a Hall of Fame quarterback leaves, the team struggles. And this idea that Jameis Winston, who, by the way, will not be throwing to Emmanuel Sanders, will not be throwing to Jared Cook, will not be throwing to Michael Thomas, who's going to start the season on the sideline because of surgery. I mean, LeVar, you look at this Saints wide receiver depth chart, you're looking at guys that you probably don't even know exist. They had a combined, the starters at wide receiver, 6 touchdowns last season. I'm just saying, right, this is real talk right now. If anything happens to Alvin Kamara, this Saints team is probably going to have a top 5 or 6 pick in the draft. Okay? This is not about Jameis. He's not a very good quarterback. I don't want to hear about his Heisman. I think LeVar was still in the league when Jameis Winston won his Heisman. Okay? Like, Rick Bucher was at another network. I wasn't even on the West Coast. That's how long ago it was that Jameis was very good.
I was not
He's just
playing
not
in
a
the
good
league
quarterback,
in 13,
okay? I'm sorry, Rick. I hate to, start off on a negative note here to start the show. I know I'm Mr. Optimistic, but the fact of the matter is Jameis Winston's just not a good quarterback.
Rick, that's usually you.
Yeah.
I know, that's you.
What J-Mac did, that's usually you, Rick.
Yeah. I decided to be a ray of optimism and light today.
Jeez.
But I have reason. You're talking about Jameis Winston with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 years ago. And yes, threw 30 interceptions. It also takes a tremendous amount of talent to throw 33 touchdowns. The 30-30 exclusive club goes both ways. You have to be both good and erratic in order to get there. And he's had a year of discipline in the New Orleans system in order to change. And he wouldn't be starting right now if he hadn't changed, if Sean Payton hadn't seen that change. And I look at his age, 25, 26 years old, and coming into the league at 21 and not having any guidance, or at least not the right kind, allowing him to go his own way. You take an immature guy with a ton of talent and you let them set their own course. It's not surprising what happened to Jameis Winston. But I always believed in that talent. And as I said, if we're talking about picking up and carrying the torch, we have to look at what Drew Brees was the last time we saw him. Still very good, but not dynamic in the way that Jameis Winston was. And you're talking about the wide receivers that are not there, the big names that are not there. You're right. You know what? Marquez Callaway has shown me something, and they've already developed a chemistry together. So there's no reason that Callaway and Winston can't be the new dynamic duo for the New Orleans Saints. And if this team was terrible otherwise, then I would say, yeah, you know what? You're asking too much of Jameis Winston. You're asking him to carry too much. But this is a top 10 defense. You mentioned Kamara, and then you look at the rest of the team, and there's the potential to do what they've done, which essentially get to the playoffs. I just don't see that as too much. Now, I will say, Jameis Winston saying, I would love to carry that torch. Jameis Winston saying, I've worked harder than any other quarterback. I'm like, dude, don't get over your skis. Let's just be happy that you are where you are and you're getting the opportunity, which he has said he is grateful for it. But all that said, I'm not going to hold that against him because, one, I am going to be a ray of optimism, and two, Jameis Winston has demonstrated over the last 2 years that he is a different Jameis Winston. And I believe that guys ultimately can change and mature.
You know, I don't think we have to go so deep into trying to justify Jameis Winston in Tampa. They did not, that team struggled. That wasn't just Jameis Winston with his struggling interceptions.
Yeah. They struggled so much they won the Super Bowl the year he left. Yeah, they struggled a lot, LeVar.
They weren't good. They were not good.
They were a game under 500, and then they win the Super Bowl. The nucleus was there, LeVar.
Well, we could say that the nucleus
how many additional pieces did they add?
But to say that you get rid of Jameis Winston and that's the reason why they were able to go win the Super Bowl, I think that that's irresponsible to put that over national television. To say that Jameis Winston leaving is the reason why they were able to get to the Super Bowl, I don't buy that. He had more than one, what was it, 3 head coaches? 3 head coaches in Tampa Bay, J-Mac. Let me ask you, have you ever had to overcome multiple coaching changes at the pro level, J-Mac?
I've seen my Jets struggle through many coaches, but Bruce Arians was there when Jameis threw 30 interceptions.
How many years had Bruce Arians been his coach?
That was his first year.
Okay. So the point I'm making here is you cannot put on Jameis Winston that this team that was underperforming was totally Jameis Winston's fault. In fact, if you look at the 30 interceptions and you look at some of those interceptions that took place, I'm not going to sit here and try to fight and argue about 30 interceptions. What I'm going to argue about is, could everybody have done better? Could there have been better leadership? Could there have been better development of Jameis Winston? Jameis had a ton of pressure coming out of college. He was looked at as one of those can't-miss prospects as well when he came out. Had a national championship and looked at as a guy that could revive a Tampa Bay team that hadn't been good since Brad Johnson. Okay, so to me, when I look at Jameis Winston having several different coaches in a short amount of time, if you understand how much the stability for a quarterback position, let alone every other position on that team, a quarterback's position, and that's why Sean Payton is such a great tool and such the answer to this situation for Jameis Winston. That's a consummate professional. That is a leader of men. He shows guys how to lead. He shows them with his mentality how to approach what's taking place.
Okay, wait, LeVar, can I ask a question about Sean Payton?
Sure.
Okay, if Sean Payton is so awesome and Jameis Winston is so mature and so different, why did we have to wait midway through the preseason for Jameis to win the starting job over Taysom Hill, who Sean Payton gave a lot of money to?
That's protocol.
Who Sean Payton gave a lot of money to and believes in.
That's proper protocol, for one. You don't want to sit there and give anybody any type of strategic advantages by saying what you're going to say so early in a preseason. That's first and foremost. Secondly, Taysom Hill was not paid to be the starting quarterback, J-Mac.
He makes more money than Jameis.
Taysom Hill was paid in hopes to be the guy that he has continued to be. He proved that he deserved that contract by playing the way that he played behind Drew Brees, not playing as the starting quarterback. He earned that money based off of what he did and what the potential of what he represented to this team meant moving forward. They brought Teddy Bridgewater in to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. When they replaced him, they did not replace him with the attempt of making Taysom Hill the starter. They brought Jameis Winston in, and that made it okay for them not to have to pay the type of money that they were going to pay Teddy Bridgewater. You get an opportunity at a low budget cost to develop Jameis Winston and see if you can develop him. And if you can, you bought that time by having Drew Brees for one more season and Taysom Hill in his paid role position of utility backup quarterback. And if Jameis Winston proves out, then you do exactly what you're doing right now. You now introduce him into the fold as the starting quarterback. That's really all it took place here. And that's very strategically sound and wise of someone who's playing chess, not checkers, in Sean Payton.
All right, speaking of quarterbacks coming up, the Cowboys say Dak is ready to rock and roll in Week 1. We'll tell you if we're confident that'll happen next on Speak for Yourself.
Let's head to Dallas, where things are looking up for the Cowboys. Dak Prescott participated in team drills earlier this week, and all signs are pointing to him being ready to go in the opener against the Bucs. Take a listen to offensive coordinator Kellen Moore.
Obviously, having him out there in 11-on-11 is huge. It's great for him. It's great for on our team, I think, especially for our offense, and I thought he looked great, and we're fired up. We're just playing ball at this point, so we're not looking at anything from a limitation standpoint. We're playing football, and we're getting ready for, obviously from his standpoint, we're getting ready for the regular season at Tampa Bay.
All right, LeVar, are you confident that Dak is ready to rock and roll against the Bucs and Tom Brady?
I'm confident that he'll play against the Bucs. Whatever rock and roll means, I think we can all define what rock and roll is. That's going to be unique to whatever your interpretation of rock and roll. He could be ready to play and get rocked and rolled against Tampa Bay, or he could get out there and they could have been pulling the wool over our eyes the entire time, and he really does rock and roll over top of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Here's the point of this conversation. We don't know. I heard something very interesting today. Shouts out to my man, Brady Quinn. He gave me such a great take on the Dak Prescott injury. Do you realize that if you take a look at his injury, he injured his left ankle, fractured, dislocated. When you're throwing the ball, you know what foot you have to really, really dig deep into when you throw the ball? Your plant foot. When you go back, when you stick it in the ground, when you torque to throw the ball. And you know what? If you're not confident in that part of your body, you will find somewhere else that will compensate. It might have been his knee that started hurting. It might have been his hip. It might have been his back. In this case, Dak Prescott has overcompensated with his shoulder. And it's on the throwing side where his injury, the same side that the injury took place. He's not all the way right. And that injury tells us very clearly that he's not all the way right, or he's not all the way confident. It could be a little of both, but he's willing to push through the pain. Now, him being willing to push through the pain will ultimately tell us this season. He's either able to work through the pain and the discomfort or the lack of trust in what took place, or just the altered body of the physiology of his ankle after that injury, because that was a real injury. We're going to learn if he's able to get through that and still be a player that can make big plays under duress in big games right away against Tampa, or we're going to see someone that we're going to have a whole bunch of questions about, and we'll continue to have the questions as to what will Dak Prescott be for this team? What does this mean for the Dallas Cowboys as a whole for this season? There are going to be a lot of questions answered come week one for the Dallas Cowboys. But will he be out there? I certainly believe he will be out there, and I certainly believe he has just as much of an opportunity to rock and roll on the good side of things versus getting rocked and rolled on the bad side of it.
Boy, LeVar coming out with all these big words, torque and physiology. I'm just going to, listen, I'm not worried about Dak Prescott at all.
Pretty good.
I feel like, Rick, we talked a lot about gambling yesterday. I also like to dabble in the stock market. Dak is such a great buy low stock right now. It's incredible. Like, the guy has his fully healthy offensive line, right? Everybody's healthy according to all the reports out of Dallas. And he's got all his receivers healthy. He's got his running back, Zeke Elliott, and Tony Pollard. Everybody's good to go in Dallas. And what you're going to see here in week one is the line is going to come down a little bit toward Dallas. I think it's 7.5 now. It will come down to 7. I think Dallas is going to be plucky in this game, folks. We know they're not going to be able to run the football, right? Tampa, top 5 run defense in the league. Zeke and Pollard are going to struggle, but that's great news for Dak Prescott, okay? This is a guy who hasn't played football, I believe it's 14 months. He hasn't played since last November. Like, this is a guy who's going to come back strong. His MVP odds are up there. Listen, I know Tampa Bay returns every starter on defense. They are the Super Bowl favorites. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. I really like what Dak's going to show us opening night. And LeVar, you say we don't know? I'm telling you, I do know. They're going to open up a can through the air against this Todd Bowles defense because you can't run on it. And I just want to point out,
it's not very easy to throw on them either.
The last time we saw this Tampa defense, they just eviscerated Patrick Mahomes. I think no quarterback was hit in Super Bowl history more. So this Dallas offensive line healthy is huge. I like Dallas in week one to show strong. They'll probably lose the game by 3, but they will put forth a great effort. Dak will be fine.
Oh, Mac, I see what you're doing. I say I'm going to be a ray of optimism, and you decide to be a human stadium bank light of optimism here with the Dallas Cowboys. And you know what the problem is when you look into one of those stadium lights, is you're blinded by the light. And I sense that is what's going on with your prediction when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and your assessment of where they are. LeVar, you said it. And you raised the question, are they pulling the wool over our eyes when it comes to Dak Prescott? Has he just been humming all along? And you know what? Thanks to Hard Knocks being around, we know that not to be the case. They've pulled the wool over our eyes, but it had to do with the health of Dak Prescott. When he first had the strained muscle in his shoulder, it was, it's no big thing. This is just precautionary. He's going to be out a couple days. And then never quite came clean on what it was until finally we have Dak Prescott missing just about in all of training camp. And now, only in Cowboy land, only in Frisco, does a guy get to the starting line where he should have been weeks ago, and everybody goes, ho, we're ready to rock and roll. We got less than 2 weeks to play the defending champions on the road, and we are ready to rock and roll. That is your stadium bank light of optimism. And J-Mac, I do not understand what you're talking about when it comes to that offensive line. They are still very much trying to sort it out. Are they healthy? I don't know. Connor Williams was just on COVID-19. Does that count? Protocol. Does that count as being healthy? He's not injured. Doesn't mean he's healthy. They're still trying to figure out who their starting center is going to be. Amari Cooper, did he just show up and start practicing? Yes. So they're all healthy. We assume Dak Prescott is some level of healthy, but they're finally healthy, and they're less than 2 weeks away from starting the season. So, no, I'm not confident in Dak Prescott or the Dallas Cowboys rocking and rolling, because I think we know what that means. It means that they're going to be playing at premium level. And there's no way, under the circumstances, that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be doing that week one.
All right, I know LeVar wants to go, but I have to respond to that, Rick. Okay, last segment, you just said, Jameis Winston, 5,000 yards passing. Survey says
No.
Dak had
That was LeVar Arrington. LeVar Arrington pointed that out.
4,900 yards in 2019 when he was healthy. Last year, by the way, did Dak have either of his tackles last year for any games? No. Left tackle, right tackle, both gone. Also, a final note, and LeVar, I know you want to go. How many times has Dak Prescott had a losing record? I hate quarterback wins, but as a losing record as a starter in Dallas? The answer is 0. He's never been under 500. Dak always comes prepared. He's like a Boy Scout. The dude had an awesome year in 2019.
He's never had an injury like this before.
Well, no, I mean, how are we supposed to gauge coming off an injury? He hasn't played football in forever. I think it's smart that they're holding him out.
You're right.
I'm glad you just indicted yourself.
It would be a reason not to be a stadium bank light of optimism.
So you want to be pessimistic because he was injured last year?
There you go.
Is that the statute of limitations? Like 1 year off, we don't know how they're coming back. Jeez, you know, Peyton Manning had a neck surgery. How did he bounce back in Denver? I don't remember. Oh, he was incredible, and he set records all over the place.
So now we've made Dak Prescott.
Now Dak
big
Prescott
quarterback injury where you miss it.
Now we have made Dak Prescott Peyton Manning.
Gosh, you guys are making me out to be the bad guy.
Hey, Rick, what did you say the best part or the only way you can be ready, totally ready, is if you're totally what?
Yeah, no. Definition of ready,
right,
is fully prepared.
Okay, thank you.
You're ready.
So
you're fully prepared.
So fully prepared. We're saying that Dak Prescott, which, by the way, he did have a losing season. When he went out of the season at the point in time that he left,
5 games.
He was 2-3. He was 2-3. And I say, were they
Sounds
trending?
Like a losing season to me.
Were they trending in the right direction when he went out with that injury? Was it really going to be much better for the season if Dak Prescott had continued on? Didn't look like it to me. I don't know. We'll never know. But they were 2-3 when he left.
I think that question's for J-Mac, not me.
All right, yeah. So here we go.
You want me to answer that? With no offensive line?
I know the odds would have told you that Dallas would have not had a much better season with Dak Prescott last year. They just didn't look very good. Here's the thing. He goes out in week 5. He has worked. We get here, and now he's dealing with a nagging injury that, to me, now I'm going to start the narrative. Yes, me. I'm going to start it. I'm bold enough. I'm brave enough to say it. I've had enough compensating injuries to say I tore my Achilles tendon on, coincidentally, ironically, on the same knee that I had to keep getting cleaned up with cartilage, that I had cartilage issues with. Okay, I'm going to sit here and say to myself, if I'm fighting through compensation injuries right now, and the season has not even started, it has not even started, and I don't know what's coming next because I have not played, which means I have not had the opportunity to truly prepare. I can't sit here and of a sound mind say that I believe you can bank on him rocking and rolling and having this breakout year or continuing where he left off, which he did have some high throwing statistics, very hidden, very skewed in terms of relevance because they had to pass the ball because of how far they were behind in point total deficit-wise. So to me, when I look at Dak Prescott, I say we cannot get too far gone on thinking that he's a world beater as a player because he wasn't really a world beater as a player before the injury. So now we're looking at him after the injury, and he's already dealing with that injury connected to the other injury that was repaired. I just don't think that you can get so far gone in thinking that, oh, the offensive line is back this year. They said that last year. Oh, Ezekiel Elliott. They paid Ezekiel Elliott. What did Ezekiel Elliott do? Nothing.
Career high in fumbles.
In fact, we don't even know what Ezekiel Elliott is going to be this year. We've looked at what is Amari Cooper going to be this year. Hasn't Amari Cooper had to deal with and fight through the same type of stuff that everybody else is fighting through on this team? We have no idea what the entire whole of this team is going to be. We think Dan Quinn has made a move and made this defense better. But what will the defense be? They got a great draft pick. Of course they got a great draft pick. But what will this defense be? There are so many factors and elements connected to Dak Prescott's success on rocking and rolling that might not even be in his control, let alone to think that he has not even really had an opportunity to prepare. I'll drop the mic right there. I'll turn it over to the jury and the judge.
Let me just quickly ask you before we go to break here.
Yeah.
So you're very down on Dallas, but
I'm not down on them. I'm just saying I wouldn't be so far up. Like, give them the opportunity to show what they're going to be because we really don't know what Dallas is going to be. It could be a upper. It could be a really high, but it could be a really low with Dallas.
A lot of the analytics and the gambling projections have Dallas to win the division.
Yeah.
Dak is one of the MVP favorites because he was when he was healthy heading into last year. So why are we so down on them when the only reason to be down, LeVar, is if the offensive line isn't healthy, if Ezekiel Elliott fumbles, let's just look at everything.
If they can break the trend of losing. Okay, there you go.
If their defense is going to be
Aaron
better.
Rodgers says it's
if Dak Prescott is actually 100%.
in Green Bay. But we'll tell you if this will be his final season as a Packer next.
Hey, J-Mac, I didn't want to have to do that to you.
I mean,
I didn't want to have to do that.
I kind of agree with you.
Tomorrow, college football kicks off, baby, on Fox. And a Big Ten battle awaits as dual threat Adrian Martinez leads Nebraska against Illinois. The action begins at 1 Eastern on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Speaking of that matchup, J-Mac, Fox Bet Super 6 is giving you a chance to win $5,000. That's right, 5 G's, 5,000 clams, y'all, during the Nebraska-Illinois game on Fox. Scan that QR code below, download the app for free and answer 6 questions about the game for your chance to win. So there you go. There you have it. How about that? J-Mac, you got to love it.
I'm so fired up for Michigan this year, LeVar. Jim Harbaugh, not ranked in the preseason, first time since 2015. And then you look at Ohio State, ridiculously loaded again. And let me just give you a quick Heisman guy. Can I do that, LeVar?
Yeah, absolutely.
Spencer Rattler, Oklahoma. Lock it up.
Spencer Rattler. Well, shouts out to the Big Ten, man. That's what I'll tell you, and I feel really good about that. You know what else I feel good about? Aaron Rodgers. So let's get back to the NFL. Aaron Rodgers is a Packer right now, but the clock could be ticking on his future in Green Bay. The reigning MVP was asked whether this year is Super Bowl or bust for his squad. Take a listen.
Look, I think we all know what's at stake, and I talked about that a little bit the other day about perspective and how important that perspective is to focus on this season and enjoy the most, the most out of this season because there are a lot of unknowns. So we're just going to enjoy this season. It's title town. It's championship or disappointment.
Well, when the new Zen master comes in with his mind games, we got to bring in somebody who can kind of decipher it and break it down. So we bring in our guy, Fox NFL analyst Bucky Brooks. Bucky, what up, though? Will this be Aaron Rodgers' final season in Green Bay?
Yes, this is it. This is the last run, the last dance. All the things that Aaron Rodgers put out there critically is going to come to fruition because they drafted Jordan Love 2 years ago because they worried about Aaron Rodgers' play beginning to decline. He kind of revived himself, played at an MVP level. But then all of the offseason drama, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play at a high level, if the Packers don't play at a level where they get beyond the NFC Championship game, I think this is it. It would be Jordan Love, third year next year. And if they are going to see if he can play, at some point you got to play him. I think year 3 is when you play him. And so unless Aaron Rodgers plays at another MVP level and the Packers win the Super Bowl, I believe this is the last year that we see number 12 in Green Bay.
Yeah, ultimately, Bucky, I don't believe it makes a difference whether they win the Super Bowl or not. They could win the Super Bowl. He could win MVP. He's still out of there because we saw that. That's the comparison to The Last Dance. Both he and Davante Adams, as you mentioned, cryptically putting out there the photo of Jordan and Pippen from The Last Dance. What did they do there last year together? That was actually the motivation to win a championship and Jordan to be the finals MVP. So I just look at everything that has transpired. Nothing has been resolved. The one issue, the one sticking point is Aaron Rodgers does not have the independent wherewithal to go someplace else. He still has to work with Green Bay to make that happen. But I dare say if they win a Super Bowl and he's the MVP, they can get a king's ransom for him in dealing him, and they should start preparing for that very possibility, whether he wins MVP or not, whether they win a Super Bowl or not. But if he does, then that's only going to raise his value and is going to allow them to get additional pieces to put around the guy that they mistakenly drafted thinking that Aaron Rodgers was washed. And one of the many things that they did, one of the many mistakes that they made, the misreads that has Aaron Rodgers feeling the way he does about the Packers. But they can go ahead with their plan and execute it. And who knows? Aaron Rodgers may do them a favor and bring them back a lot more than they would have otherwise.
Here's the problem for me. I do not think that this is definitively his final season. In fact, Rick, pull Rick back up on here. Like, let me address Rick here. Rick, in the final dance, when did it become evident that the final dance was the final dance? The documentary, right? When they took that picture, Pippen and Jordan walking off, they didn't know that was the final dance. We didn't know that was going to be their final. Hold on. Was there the opportunity if Krause would have conformed and did what Michael Jordan wanted, that they would have kept that team together? Yes or no? Just give me a yes or no on that. Yes or no?
I can't give you a yes or no.
Is that, how's it not a yes or no?
Because it was never going to happen. It wasn't going to.
That's not what I'm asking.
Yes.
That's not what I'm asking. Michael Jordan wanted Phil Jackson to be the coach of that team and wanted to hold it together the way that he did, and would have stayed if Krause would have got out of his own way and did it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, that brings me to Aaron Rodgers, who he is not thinking on the same level that we are putting this story out on. He put out a Last Dance as a setup. Do what I need you to do, and I will stay. Now, he hasn't doubled down on it other than what his initial interview has been. You can take Rick down now. You go to single on me. Like, come to me. Just be on me right now because I'm about to put y'all up on some game right now. Aaron Rodgers does the initial interview and puts out on the table, airs it out as if they don't know what they're doing in the front office, but I know what I'm doing on the field. And so Aaron Rodgers has overcome front office issues. Aaron Rodgers is Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is the reason why people come to Green Bay. Give Aaron Rodgers the ball. Let Aaron Rodgers spin with the ball, like Booby said in the great movie Friday Night Lights. Okay. Moving forward to where we are right now, Aaron Rodgers says it's basically championship or bust. We know what's at stake. What Aaron Rodgers has done and is brilliantly continuing to manufacture and put in front of the world to see is that if we have a great season and we win a championship season, if we are having a great run along the way, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins out of 9 games, 8 games, Green Bay's front office brass is going to start to feel the pressure of everything that Aaron Rodgers has put out there to be consumed by the public. That's perfect. It's proper. This is done in politics. This is done when people are campaigning. It's classic. It's classic. And I don't know that it's propaganda because it's true what he's saying and what he's doing. They will be forced. Those board members, keep in mind, this is not a owner-ran team. This is a board that runs this team and governs this team. There will be enough people on that board that feel the pressure of Aaron Rodgers' success, knowing the question marks that surround Jordan Love, and they will be forced to start having the conversations. Do we give Aaron Rodgers what he wants before this thing gets too far gone? There's a possibility if they're on a run for the championship in the NFC title in their division and are heading towards the playoffs as a #1 seed, that not only is Aaron Rodgers going to end up staying in Green Bay, but Aaron Rodgers is going to get the concessions made to him that he is looking for and he is seeking to actually want to stay in Green Bay. Now, as outrageous as I may sound right now saying what I'm saying, there is no reason to actually think that everybody's sitting there actually in a way disrespecting Aaron Rodgers by saying, I know he's gone. He's leaving. This is it. Last dance, last season. He's not coming back. Why would he give everybody the opportunity to just sit back comfortably and sound like they're amazing experts on saying what it is that's going on with Aaron Rodgers and his head and his affairs? When you think left on somebody, you might need to take 2 seconds and think right. That's all I'm saying.
It's quite possible he just likes the attention, LeVar. Maybe he just loves the spotlight. I don't know. Bucky, my problem here is that the Packers totally screwed this up, and they don't seem to want to fix it. Like, it seems like an easy fix. Hey, man, Aaron Rodgers is an MVP. Why on earth would we move on from him? Let's move on from Jordan Love. Keep Aaron Rodgers happy. We're in the Super Bowl mix for several more years, right? I mean, 13-3, 13-3. I know they're going to be down 2 starting offensive linemen, maybe 3 in the opener, and it could be a bit of a slow start, but they have the second best Super Bowl odds in the NFC. Bucky, it just doesn't make sense why the Packers are so eager to move on from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, LeVar just outlined his greatness for like 7 minutes. Like, why would you do that when all you could have to do is just push Jordan Love out and say, you know what? Not our guy. We're sticking with Aaron. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense to me. It made sense to me when they drafted Jordan Love, because if you go back and look at how Aaron Rodgers was playing, his completion percentage and passer rating had declined in 3 consecutive years.
Yep.
And when you think about a quarterback who is nearing the age of 40, we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to do Tom Brady things. I've heard baseball managers talk about this. It is better to get rid of a guy a year too early than a year too late. And if you're the Green Bay Packers and you understand how it took place with Brett Favre going to Aaron Rodgers, you hand it off to Jordan Love. Because as great as Aaron Rodgers is, Aaron Rodgers isn't as big as the Green Bay Packers franchise. And when we think about his greatness, Aaron Rodgers is also 1-4 in NFC Championship games. So we can put a lot of things on the Green Bay Packers and say that he hasn't been able to do all these things. Aaron Rodgers also hasn't held up his end of the bargain. Because if you are a great quarterback, like we all say that he is, at some point, he has to put more rings on fingers, and it can't be the organization's fault. He has to take some ultimate accountability for his inability to get them over the hump.
That's not fair. Come on. That is
so
I don't know.
He's going to end up being a GM. Bucky's going to be a GM one day. I mean, I think that was properly answered and properly illustrated. Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
Bucky, I don't know that I would go so far as to blame the Packers' lack of achievements on Aaron Rodgers when he's been, a 3-time MVP? I look at what the Packers have done and haven't done and putting it around him. And J-Mac, to your point, Jordan Love, just moving Jordan Love, the list of grievances that Aaron Rodgers has at this point is a lot longer than drafting Jordan Love. Moving on from Jordan Love is simply trying to put a Band-Aid on things. It's like bringing Randall Cobb back. Like, okay, are you happy now? No, I'm not happy. I need a little bit more than that. And LeVar, what I do not understand is why you are so confident that for the first time in the history of the NFL, if not in sports in general, that a star's complaint is going to result in the CEO and the GM both being kicked to the curb in order to keep that player. There have been plenty of players that have had issues with their team.
Can I respond to that before we get too far away from it?
Sure. Before I get to my next one, yes. What's your answer to that? Let me
respond to that. Because as the saying goes, history is ultimately destined to repeat itself if those that are looking at the history don't learn from it, correct? So for what it's worth, Aaron Rodgers has masterfully put it out there in a way where he tied it direct, not subliminally. He tied it directly to the woes and the disappointment and the fall.
Sure.
Do you realize the Chicago Bulls still have yet to recover from Michael Jordan leaving Chicago? They still have yet to recover from that. He puts that on his Twitter and directly connects it to him and then goes into his press conference and tells them, this is me. This Green Bay thing, this is Aaron Rodgers.
But
don't make the same mistake they made in Chicago. That's what I'm telling you. And Milwaukee is close to Chicago in proximity, by the way.
But here's the thing, LeVar. You're making the assumption that the fan base and the people in Green Bay are all behind Aaron Rodgers as a result of what he's put out there.
Yes, that is true. That's all I can do.
Well, that's not true.
Why would you not be? Why would you not be behind Aaron Rodgers? If you don't have Aaron Rodgers, what are you getting behind? Jordan Love?
Because you're getting behind Jordan Love? You're getting behind the Green Bay Packers. You're saying that the Green Bay Packers aren't just Aaron Rodgers. I heard as much criticism over the summer of Aaron Rodgers being a diva and that, hey, look, just do your job and play for the team and don't try to be the front office and the quarterback. I heard as much of that. And if they're going to win this year, if they're going to be successful, they're not going to put all that on Aaron Rodgers. They're going to say, look, Brian Gutekunst, Mark Murphy, they built a team that could play for a Super Bowl. What the hell is Aaron Rodgers complaining about? If he just does his job,
people will
then
argue that one.
everything is fine.
People will argue that they put together a Super Bowl roster. They did not. Aaron Rodgers has basically told the world, y'all aren't putting together a Super Bowl roster. That's why we're not winning Super Bowls. But Aaron Rodgers is good enough to play for us to be competitors to make it to the Super Bowl or a game short of it.
And Bucky, exactly to what LeVar is saying. You're like, oh, he's 1-4 in NFC title games. Bucky, hold up. Did he not recover the onside kick against Seattle? Was it his fault that San Francisco rushed for 300 yards 2 years ago in the conference championship? Was he the one who said, nah, we're going to kick a field goal on 4th down in the road? Like, you can't blame Aaron Rodgers, Bucky. That's not right.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even a huge Aaron Rodgers guy, but it ain't right to blame him. He's the least of their problems, it feels like.
Absolutely. So here's the thing about the Green Bay Packers. I saw that the Green Bay Packers go 13-3 with Aaron Rodgers playing at the MVP level. I saw him going 13-3 with him putting up one of the worst seasons of his career. So we can talk about Aaron Rodgers doing all of these things, but the team is the same whether he's playing at a high level or not. And we're not going to absolve Aaron Rodgers from criticism when this team is not getting to the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
Look, if he is what he is supposed to be, at some point he has to make a play. We saw Aaron Rodgers with the ball in his hand.
And
the ball was at the 8-yard line.
He did.
He has an opportunity to make a play. He didn't make a play. So he can blame Matt LaFleur and everybody else. But when the ball was in his hand in a make-or-miss league, as Rick Bucher would say, he didn't make it. So he has to take some accountability for that. And we always talk about he doesn't have weapons. He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that. Devontae Adams is a top 5 receiver. Some would say is the best in football. We think about all the other Pro Bowl receivers, Greg Jennings. We've seen James Jones lead the league in receptions and touchdown receptions. We've seen Randall Cobb be a Pro Bowl player. At some point, what is Aaron Rodgers supposed to do? He's supposed to make plays. We can't keep putting it on everybody else and never point the finger at number 12.
Wow.
I think that's interesting.
Harsh.
But you know what? Bucky's a front office guy, and I respect that. I've come to understand that Bucky's high level. I'll be slumming it, so I keep it G with what I'll be bringing to the table. Coming up, Cam or Mac? Mac or Cam? Cam or Mac? Mac or Cam? We'll tell you who should start for the Patriots next on Speak for Yourself. Oh, wow.
Cam Newton was back at practice Thursday after missing 3 straight days for a COVID-19 protocol misunderstanding. During Cam's absence, Mac Jones took the first team reps. Belichick was asked when he'll transition to a clear starting quarterback for the regular season, and not surprisingly, he said he has no timetable on that. Rick Bucher, who should the Patriots start in week 1? Cam Newton or Mac Jones?
Cam Newton. Cam Newton is the starter, according to Bill Belichick, and did say that depending on what happens and how they play, that could ultimately change. It didn't say that it was his forever, but Cam Newton is the starter, was the starter going into preseason. And if I'm going to take Bill at his word, the idea that he missed time because of COVID or COVID protocol, but did not violate team rules would suggest that this is like an injury. He missed some time in practice. Doesn't mean he loses his position. It's one thing if Mac Jones had won a game, but he didn't win a game. He just had a good practice. So he's still the guy chasing Cam Newton for that position. Coming into the season, it makes far more sense that you would go with a veteran guy. And I just believe in general that with young quarterbacks, you give them as much time as you possibly can before you throw them out there in the real action. And that's what the plan seems to be with the New England Patriots until Cam Newton does something demonstrably different that causes him to lose that position. I fully expect Cam Newton will be the starter and should be the starter.
I like the sentiment, Rick. Yeah, give him a lot of time. He's a young kid. He started at Alabama. Let's give him time. You know who does not have time? Bill Belichick. 69 years old, Rick. You think he's got time to let the quarterback bake, let the rookie get up to speed, and maybe next year we'll start Mac? No. Bill Belichick wants to win now. The guy he had before, Tom Brady, he left and won a Super Bowl, and Tom Brady won the breakup, as they like to say on TV shows like this. Belichick needs to respond, and, that's obvious, Rick. We read tea leaves a lot in this business. How did Belichick respond? Well, He spent like a drunken sailor in free agency, right? I mean, he's never spent like that before. Go give me 2 wide receivers. I'll take 2 tight ends. Oh, and by the way, we're getting 8 guys back who opted out for COVID, the most in the league. They had 4 defensive starters opt out last year, yet Belichick, the magician, still won 7 games. I don't know how he pulled that off, frankly. They had an awful roster. I mean, they looked terrible. Cam Newton was awful. They had 2 300-yard passing games all season. All signs point to Belichick in a passing league wanting to air it out. That's why he got Aguilar to go in the slot, and he can toggle between, hey, we'll go 3 wide receivers. Now this time we'll go 2 tight ends with Jonnu Smith, who's really good and underrated, and Hunter Henry. But listen, this is a team that has options. They got a running back who I'm not going to name here because I don't want guys who are watching to draft him in my fantasy league. He's going to be a monster. This is a sleeping giant with the Patriots if they start Mac Jones. He gives them a better chance to win. The opener will be tough against Flores, who really did a number on rookie quarterbacks last year. Flores, of course, the former Patriots coach. I just think Mac Jones gives them a better chance to win now. And I don't want to go overboard like I did with Dallas. LeVar kind of slapped me on the wrist earlier. But there's the potential. Mac Jones goes in, Josh McDaniels' system. This is an 11-win team, and they may surprise some people and win a playoff game or 2.
More interesting to tell Acho, hey, add juice, menace to society, boys in the hood. If you really get nasty with it, you could add in some how high and half baked to your movies list. Just thought I'd throw that out there to you guys when you get back. Play this for them so they can see that. That is almost more interesting than talking about who will start for the Patriots. You know why? Because, of course, it's going to be Cam Newton. Cam is not losing his job over a misunderstanding for COVID protocol. What's going to happen is they're going to have to get to a place of clarity on how they're going to handle things so that Cam's COVID history doesn't become an issue in his present with this team. When he returned back to the team after a 3-day hiatus for all of this, he came back as the starter.
Well, he
took the starting reps, all right? Well, not only did he had to, but he is the starter. The one thing about what's going on right now in New England, are you setting the table for Mac Jones to take over eventually for this team? Of course you are. This is not the same situation that's taking place in Green Bay like we just discussed in the last segment. We know that Mac Jones will eventually be the quarterback of this team. Cam knows that Mac Jones will eventually be the starter of this team. Mac knows that he will eventually be the starter of this team. It just ain't right now. It's just not going to happen right now. If you think that Bill Belichick, knowing how he has taken full advantage of the naiveness and the lack of development, I don't care how much of a stud you are when you come into this league as a rookie, Bill Belichick has always been able to find a way to take advantage of rookie quarterbacks. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
LeVar, can I ask you something real quick? If before the COVID situation, Mac Jones was getting 45% of first-team snaps, that's the report. Cam was like 55, Mac Jones was 45. This was before COVID. Why do you think Cam is automatically the starter?
He's not automatically the starter. Cam earns the job.
When?
He earns in practice, in the game.
Well, then why is Mac getting half the first-team reps?
Did you not see the last game they played in, J-Mac?
With the last preseason
You want to
game,
go? Do y'all want to go do a
Bill
film
Belichick
review
cares about
on
a preseason
what they did in that last preseason game? His awareness in the pocket, his movement, his arm was live. What are the things that we sat there and said about Cam Newton that was the reason why he couldn't go any further in the National Football League? His arm is dead. It has no more juice in it. It's lazy.
Last year after the Seattle game.
Limpy arm. Well, that arm looked real live in that game, that last preseason game he played in against the Eagles, and it was very, very, very efficient. And so was the person that arm was connected to.
Rick Bucher could have been efficient against that Eagles secondary. One of the bottom 5 units in the league.
Sounds good, but once you get up on Cam Newton and you understand the magnitude of what that man brings, the weight that he leaves behind him, the shadow that he casts in front of him, let me tell you something. Mac Jones should be happy and more than willing to have this opportunity and time to learn from one of the greats of the game while not being sent out there. You know, there's that whole, you know, Daniel, well, who was in the Lions Den? Who went in the Lions Den? I don't know. I don't remember his name. I want to say it's Daniel. Anyway,
Bible, I think it was Daniel.
It was Daniel, I think so. Anyway, are you really going to send him into a Lions Den with Tom Brady, knowing what's going to happen, knowing that man is not going to be able to stand up to Tom Brady when he comes into town? You really want to scar that young man like that? No. The answer is no. You're not going to put Mac Jones in any type of compromising situations. You know why? Because you have you have made a living off of taking advantage of rookie quarterbacks your entire career as a coach. So you already know everything that's going to happen to this young man if you put him in the game. And why would you even put him in a situation where, in the history and the annals of talking about Tom Brady, the guy that they drafted to bring in and replace Tom Brady a year removed from him leaving, got his tail kicked by Tom in one of his last seasons? Nah, it ain't going to happen. And I'm not just basing it off of the Tom Brady matchup. I'm just saying the magnitude of the games in New England are much bigger than a whole lot of the, matter of fact, the vast majority of the other teams in the National Football League, because they have established and earned much is given, much is required. They're a championship franchise. They have to move as a championship franchise, even when they don't have a championship franchise roster that's put together. So to me, they're not going to put Mac Jones in there before they are good and ready and confident that he can handle more than just calling plays. It has to be more than just calling plays. It has to be able to handle what the Patriot way is.
Yeah, 55-45 split is a reflection of the fact that they do want to get Mac Jones ready, and that at some point he very well could play this season, but not coming out of the gate. Totally understandable why Cam Newton would be the starter, because they're not starting even. Cam Newton has been there. That 55 share is in part because he's already been indoctrinated into the system. And J-Mac, I'm just amused that you think that Bill Belichick cares about what the media is saying about him and Tom Brady and Tom going to Tampa Bay and winning a Super Bowl, and therefore it proves that he had the bigger share, and Bill Belichick has to get back and he has to win and he has to prove.
He cares.
Or that he had big a part in winning Super Bowls as Tom Brady did. Bill Belichick doesn't care.
He doesn't care about
say.
somebody spent
Doesn't care how we assess things.
He cares.
And the idea that at 69, that somehow, like, oh my God, he's what? First I thought you were going to say, you know what? He needs to win or he could get fired.
No,
he's not losing his job, and he's not retiring.
He's going to feel the pressure.
What did you say? You just mentioned Pete Carroll. What's Pete Carroll? 73, 74? So we're talking about at least a 4 or 5 year timeline, and Pete doesn't look like he's going anywhere either. So this idea like Bill Belichick has to hurry up and win now, or what? Like what? What's going to happen to Bill if he doesn't win this season? I'll tell you what happens if he puts Mac Jones out there too quickly, and Mac Jones craters as a result of that. Now you're back to the drawing board, and all that you invested in Mac Jones, you got to start over. And now that timeline does extend his return to winning and creates a problem. So slow play it. The beauty of what Bill has is that he has insurance. He has a track record.
All right, hold on.
He doesn't have to win
Let's back up
right now in order to keep everybody at bay.
Belichick and Saban are tight. Okay, we saw the documentary with them together. Bill knows exactly what he's getting in Mac Jones. He knows he's a perfect fit for the system. So I have little concern that he's going to come out and vomit all over himself in the opener with 3 picks or anything like that. But, Rick, it is seriously
because
silly.
He's not going to play in the opener.
It's silly to think that Bill Belichick was like, oh, Brady won 3 straight road games and is in the Super Bowl? I'm just going to go sailing and go fishing, and I don't care what Tom Brady... That is naive, Rick. Get real. Okay, they spent 20 years together.
Bill was really just
and Tom Brady said,
he was upset.
I'm out. And then guess what? This really hurt Belichick, and you can try to deny it all you want. Tom Brady went to Tampa, and his first call, hey, Gronk, I know you hated playing for Belichick. You want to come back, come out of retirement, play with me? We'll win another chip? And Grunt comes back immediately and catches a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Like, they were sticking it to Belichick. And this idea that he doesn't care and, like, it doesn't really matter. I mean, LeVar, come on. You have to agree with me.
No, he cares.
He has to care. These are prideful men, dude.
To what degree you could always debate, but he cares. Oh, he cares. For certain.
All right, coming up, Carson Wentz is getting a
so much so that he just has to win.
We'll tell you
to win this
if
year.
he'll bounce back this season. Next on Speak for Yourself.
Frank Reich says it's, quote, all positive with Carson Wentz's recovery from foot surgery. Adam Schefter added, quote, it would be an upset if he didn't play in the opener. Wentz is getting a clean slate after a rocky ending in Philly. So, Bucky, let's start with you. Do you expect a bounce-back season for Mr. Carson Wentz?
I actually do, because I think this is a situation where less is more. Meaning Carson Wentz is going to the Indianapolis Colts, and he is going to be asked to do less of what he did in Philadelphia, and that is going to be a great thing. When you dig into his history and go all the way back to how he played at North Dakota State, Carson Wentz's sweet spot when it comes to the pitch count is anywhere between 23 and 29 pass attempts per game. That means that you're using the balance of the running game, you're relying on your defense, and all of the other elements of the team to allow you to win games. When I look at the Indianapolis Colts, top-rated offensive line, a deep and talented backfield, Jonathan Taylor, Malcolm Mack, Naheem Hines, talented receivers, a first-class defense with DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard. They hustle and chase and run to the ball. The only thing Carson Wentz has to do is be an A-level game manager. Even though we've talked about him in the MVP conversation in the past, if he just manages the game, the Indianapolis Colts are going to win, and they're going to win a ton, and he will get all the adulation and acclaim that he so desperately desires.
Dang, I really like that, Bucky. You almost changed my mind. The key word is, of course, almost.
Wow.
You know, we frame this as bounce back. If you think he could bounce back from, 3 years ago, 4 years ago being an MVP, and now he's going to put up good numbers, I just don't think that's possible. You did forget one thing, Bucky. I'm curious who's starting at left tackle for them in the opener, because their star left tackle, Costanzo, retired. They tried to replace him with a guy from the Chiefs who's coming off an Achilles. It's unclear if he's going to start the opener. Now you're looking at Carson Wentz, his blind side not protected, okay? We know Carson Wentz led the league, took 50 sacks in 12 games last year. He also tied for the league lead in interceptions. He's a fumble machine, and we know if he has to lead a comeback, he's very skittish there in the pocket. And Bucky, we've seen him, okay? In Philadelphia, he got rattled. This is not a guy I trust at all for the Colts next year or this season. I like the Colts as a team, but the schedule, Bucky, they open with 4 of their first 5 games against teams that made the playoffs last year. They open in probably the toughest schedule in September in the league. I don't know if they can recover because Carson Wentz, it's like a head game with him right now. I just don't think it's there. I'm selling all my Carson Wentz stock, which is very little.
Wow.
Bucky, let me take care of this for you. I got it. J-Mac was coming back at you, but I got it.
Optimism.
Yes.
Rick, optimism.
He is going to have a bounce-back season. I am a ray of optimism on the show today. But I actually don't need to be that optimistic in this case because it's just being realistic. The fact of the matter is, we're not talking about him going back to MVP status. You weren't listening to Bucky. The Indianapolis Colts have enough weapons and enough other strengths that you're not asking Carson Wentz to do all of that. And that's the biggest issue. You're giving him way too much criticism for what happened in Philadelphia. They had injuries galore. They didn't have a great offensive line. And did he respond to it well? No, he did not. But their response was to put even more on his shoulders, and that did not work. He now gets back or comes to join a team that has a good offensive line. I know the left tackle is an issue, but other than that, that's a solid line. He has better weapons around him, and perhaps more and most important is he has a coach who believes in him, who he has confidence with, and that's a huge factor because Carson Wentz is still a young quarterback, and the difference between a coach who believes in you and finds a way to put you in your sweet spot as opposed to, hey, you know what? My job's on the line. I'm hoping you can save my ass. That's a big difference. Carson Wentz is no longer in that situation. He's now in a new one. I don't know that he's going to get back to MVP status. You, J-Mac, don't believe he's going to get back to MVP status because you bet on Baker Mayfield. I would dare say this. I think there's a better chance of Carson Wentz finishing higher in the MVP battle than I do Baker Mayfield.
Oh, my gosh, that is comical, Rick.
You want that? Do you want that, Jason?
I'll take it every day of the week and today.
Because
yes.
I'm going to be repetitive with what I have to say. I mean, I think Bucky Brooks hit it. So, Jay, if you want to address Rick, you go right ahead.
No, I mean, Rick, it's still, listen, maybe I went overboard saying MVP, but what is, fine, define bounce back for me, Rick. Is he going to lead the league in sacks taken and tie the league lead in interceptions?
No, he's not.
How about the fumbles? Is he going to cut down on the fumbles?
In either category.
So you're totally confident that Carson Wentz, who was a train wreck last year and was like a nightmare in the locker room. Oh, and I want to add this, Rick. I jotted down some notes while you were talking. I love the selectiveness in Philly. Did you hear it, LeVar? In Philly.
Yes.
Well, listen, they put too much on his plate. It wasn't really Wentz's fault, the coach and this and that. But in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers didn't deliver. They stacked the deck for him. He couldn't deliver.
That's Bucky's argument. That's not my argument.
So strangely selective on who's the problem and who's not. So, actually, I want to bring it back to you, Buck, real quick. Carson Wentz was
get who you're attacking straight.
Disaster last year in Philadelphia. Fact or fiction?
Oh, he was. He was a disaster, but he's not playing in Philadelphia anymore.
Okay, so all of a sudden, why does he become a bounce-back superstar, or maybe not even a star, but, a Pro Bowler in Indy? Just because of what's around him and the coach? Is that all we're banking on?
Absolutely. Nature versus nurture. It's one thing if his natural talent is at a level. He was a second overall pick, but it's also the environment that he's in. He's around a better team, better coaches, people that want to see him succeed. And so they're going to put him in a position to be very successful. And by doing that, they may ask him, hey, Carson, we're not going to ask you to throw the ball all over the yard. We're not going to ask you to do things that you're incapable of doing. Part of being a good shooter is taking shots that you can make. So if we don't ask him to push the ball down the field and to do all of the things that they were asking him to do in Philadelphia, you might get better results. Remember, Frank Reich has said he wants a tough, hard-nosed football team that can run the ball. Running the ball is the quarterback's best friend. And so when you worry about that left tackle protecting his blind side, well, guess what? You don't have to protect the blind side of the running game. Run it right at them, run it over, run it early and often, and then when you play action pass, there are guys that are wide open. Carson Wentz will bounce back because he's in a better setup than he was in Philadelphia.
Stay with me on this one, Bucky. They say if you win the turnovers battle, you what? The game.
Oh, you win. It's the number one deciding factor in football.
It's the number one valued stat in football. This offense with Phillip Rivers ranked third in protecting the ball in turnovers, J-Mac. You know what they did on defense? They ranked fifth in turnovers. That means not only are they protecting the ball, but they're taking it away from you as well. Most important stat. So then I was like, well, I'm all in on adding Carson Wentz because you know what? As you mentioned, Bucs, just protect the ball. A bounce back doesn't mean you have to go out here and be something that you're not. A bounce back means you come back and you're efficient, your team wins. Listen, you could talk as much about Jimmy Garoppolo being what he isn't, and he isn't this, and he isn't that, and he isn't this, and he isn't that, but he wins, right? I don't have a problem being Jimmy Garoppolo if when I go out there I'm efficient and I win. So you could talk as crazy as you want about me. That's a lesson for Carson Wentz to take into this season. He doesn't have to be in the MVP race for him to have come back successfully. It's integrating into what they've already built. They're already winning the turnovers war. So when you win those battles, you're going to win the war. Now, one thing that kind of concerned me, because we also know that what down is the most important down to win, Bucs.
Oh, you're going to win money down, third down.
You got to win the money down. It's that third down, and they're not very good at that. So now it pulled me to the other side of it. If you're going to need if Carson Wentz is going to show his weight and what his value is to this team, he has to take them from a ranking of 22nd in the league. And, the defense has to help him because they ranked 19th in the league on third downs. That is very critical to the conversation of what will Carson Wentz mean to this team. So to me, ninth in total offense, 10th in total defense. They win on third downs. I think that the odds are in favor of Carson Wentz to have a bounce-back year. It just doesn't have to be an MVP. Coming up, sounds like Dak is ready to go week 1. But we'll tell you if he'll also be in that MVP conversation. MVP. Next on Speak for Your Offensive Coordinator, Kellen Moore says Dak Prescott, he's ready to rock and roll for the season opener against the Bucs. A lot is expected of Dak this season. He has the 5th best MVP odds according to Fox Bet Sportsbook. So, Jason, will Dak be in the MVP conversation this season?
I'm watching for Rick's head to explode here. Yes, it will. I tried to tell you guys this.
My God.
I was in Vegas last week, put a few shekels on Dak Prescott to win the MVP. Allow me to explain. I won't go too long here. So if we use history as a guide, in the last 8 years, all you've had are MVPs that are quarterbacks, right? So quarterback is important. And also, 5 of the last 6 years, the MVP has had either the number 1 or the number 2 seed in the playoffs. So you got to be a good team and a quarterback. That really limits it. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes will be there. Josh Allen will be there, and so on, okay? Why Dak Prescott? Well, if you look at the schedule, it lines up very well for Dak Prescott. The division, we established that yesterday, it's a joke. LeVar's Washington team, criminally overrated. Giants are a dumpster fire. Jeez. Eagles are a disaster. There's a reason Dak and the Cowboys are favored to win the division. So now we're looking at Dak winning the division, putting up crazy good numbers in an offense that's stacked and healthy, Rick. Remember, healthy. And, oh, yeah, the Dallas defense kind of stinks, so they're going to hemorrhage points. Dak's going to be put in a position to put up huge numbers. Now, the last thing I'll say before Rick's head comes back together, if you looked last year, right about this time, hey, does anybody think Josh Allen is going to be in the MVP discussion? We would have been like, oh, that's funny. That's a real good joke. Josh Allen finished runner-up. 2 years ago, if anybody had said right about this time, Lamar Jackson, I think I'll take an MVP flyer. You would have said the guy can't throw the football. There's no chance. They go 14-2. Lamar wins the MVP. Every year, folks, somebody surprises. Dak Prescott's the guy this year.
J-Mac. So tell me, if I understand correctly, you went to Vegas and you bet on both Dak Prescott and Baker Mayfield winning MVP. Do I have that
Good
correct?
Odds.
Are you just painting
100%.
with that broad brush, and I hope that one of them will be correct, which actually is not technically a bad betting strategy, but when you come on TV and start to pump up one guy or the other as the MVP, you got to pick a lane. It can't be your betting strategy brought to the masses on TV. No, he's not an MVP candidate. And I love how you look at the schedule and you go, look, the Cowboys have an easy schedule. So therefore, they're going to be the number 1 or 2 seed and have this phenomenal record. That's based on what? Last season with the Cowboys? You're so good at referencing past seasons as being evidence of what's going to happen currently. Okay, let's look at what the Cowboys were last year. Were they any good? Were they anywhere close to a first? They couldn't even win their division. They didn't even have a winning record. And by the way, you are correct, though. That record is very important when it comes to winning MVP. And let's just take a look at the last 10 MVP, where half a dozen, whatever number we have up there, the records of the teams. Now, Matt Ryan is an outlier there at 11-5. And as of right now, at best, I have the Dallas Cowboys at 10-7. So he can't even reach the bottom level of what we have for MVPs when it comes record-wise. And it's not a referendum on Dak Prescott. It's a referendum on the Cowboys and how good they are or aren't going to be. Okay. So ultimately, that is the biggest issue that Dak Prescott faces. Much like Steph Curry last year, phenomenal degree of difficulty, a lot of similarities there, because Dak Prescott is still going to have to do some amazing things coming back from injury, just like Steph Curry. And yet, for all of that amazing play, Steph was an MVP, and his team didn't make the playoffs. And I see the same for Dak Prescott. Won't go so far as to say they won't make the playoffs.
So maybe
but
10
this
wins,
idea
but no
that they're going to be a
playoffs.
top seed and have this phenomenal record, not so sure I'm ready to go there.
I got J-Mac all figured out, Bukes. There was this movie that Eddie Murphy was in called Imagine That. If you haven't seen it, you got to go watch it. It's a really fun, cool movie. And it's
Early
based
Eddie Murphy, or?
It's based like
I think the title tells me all I need to know.
It's based off of how J-Mac makes his decisions on these type of topics and how it works in Vegas and all that stuff. Eddie Murphy was making these big deals off of talking to his daughter about the stock options. His daughter would talk to imaginary friends, and they would give her the stock, the decisions to make, and then he would take it into
That sounds familiar.
The business place, and he would put it out there, and it magically worked, right? So everybody's getting their blankets. They were doing all kinds of dances, spiritual dances, to be able to pick the right stocks in the market. I see that J-Mac is living in that imagine that type of scenario. The way I hear him talk about
fun.
Dak Prescott winning the MVP
J-Mac, who's your
award.
invisible friend?
His name is Rick with a K.
Let me double down on that and on the Baker Mayfield, all right? And let me blow y'all's minds, and y'all might think I should be in the movie too. Imagine that, because I might be crazy as well. But I think it's more feasible to think that Jameis Winston will be more in the MVP conversation this year than one Dak Prescott or even Baker Mayfield. I don't think Baker Mayfield.
Oh, there, did you, Lamar Arrington?
Hey, listen here. I don't think that Baker Mayfield is in the class of a franchise quarterback. I just don't. And when I look at Dak Prescott, I do not believe that you can invest that much belief until we see what he is going to be now. So if I'm projecting, how do you project him to be in the conversation of being an MVP?
Isn't that what we do all day?
The last time we saw him, he was losing games and ended up pushing too hard and got hurt while trying to make a play. So I'm looking at it from the standpoint of a struggling team. He comes back, now all of a sudden coming back with a new contract. Is that what's making him an MVP candidate? But because he threw for all those yards, that's what's making him an MVP candidate? They were still losing games.
LeVar, can I jump? Okay, so my example was Josh Allen after his second year, right? 58% completions, mediocre quarterback. Nobody thought he would make the leap. He made a massive leap. 2 years ago, Lamar Jackson, same deal, loses a playoff game, looks awful, comes back and wins the MVP. Like, that's what we do here. We project.
That does happen.
Yeah, what do you mean it does happen? It happens every year.
J-Mac,
in the NFL, last 15 years, I believe 14 of 15 years, a team has gone last place to first. This is how the league works, guys. Like, I'm not trying to break news here. We project on what may or may not happen. I'm bullish on Dak. Rick, you hate the guy.
What you're missing is...
You hate him.
We knew that those teams were going to be good. We knew that those teams were capable of being a vehicle for the MVP. And just because we didn't see Josh Allen coming doesn't mean that now Dak Prescott, according to your imaginary friend, is going to be the next Josh Allen. Like, it's not just Dak Prescott and his play. It's the team that he's playing with. So that's where the missing element is. The Dallas Cowboys are not good enough for Dak Prescott to win MVP. End of story.
You got to love my segue. Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield. Let's do some talking about them. How about that? Who's more likely to win a Super Bowl ring? First, that is, Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield. We'll answer that next on Speak for Yourself.
Nick Jameis is 60-1. Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson are both from the 2018 draft class, and both quarterbacks are still waiting for long-term deals. RG3 spoke about the Ravens and said his former team will take the final step, adding, quote, I think they take it all the way to the Super Bowl. All right, LeVar Arrington, tough one here. Who's more likely to win a ring first, Lamar Jackson or Baker Mayfield?
You know, it's interesting because they're both in the same division, so it'd be interesting to see how they fare against one another head-to-head. But I'm going with Lamar Jackson. I think that Lamar Jackson has the higher trajectory and the higher ceiling as a quarterback. I know people will look at it and say that, well, Baker Mayfield is more of a traditional pocket passing quarterback, that will lead to greater success because, well, Lamar Jackson's style has not been what wins Super Bowls. But I would push back on that, and I would say I beg to differ. I think he's a more athletic version, maybe doesn't throw quite as well as Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes is a mobile quarterback that can move and make plays with his feet while throwing the ball. It's an evolution of the position. If you think about it, what are they doing in San Francisco? A mobile quarterback that can throw the ball, and Trey Lance. You look at even Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. He's a mobile quarterback that can throw the ball. The question is, will Lamar Jackson be able to throw the ball well enough to make it far enough to the Super Bowl and be able to win the Super Bowl? That's a question I can't answer. But if I'm betting on who would be able to transition to that level and to that height in their career, just based off of everything that we've seen, he's adapted and adjusted his game well enough to already have won an MVP award in the National Football League, which that's very, very rare air. It's very difficult to achieve that. So if he's still learning and he's still growing, I think it's overstated that he doesn't throw the ball as well as he should to be in that category of elite quarterbacks, especially throwing the ball. That's overstated. I think he continues to evolve. They added Sammy Watkins. They gave him another weapon. They added the kid out of Minnesota, the receiver there. I like him. I think you got to go with Lamar Jackson on this one.
Yeah, well, we know that players don't win Super Bowls. Teams win Super Bowls. Ravens have a better team. They're top 11 defensively, offensively, and on special teams, which matters a lot. But I'm still just ever so slightly leaning to Baker Mayfield winning a ring first in Cleveland. I just think the Browns this year, they are stacked. Remember, Baker Mayfield has one playoff win. Lamar Jackson has how many playoff wins, LeVar? I forgot, after 3 trips to the postseason. I don't know. We'll have to add them up, maybe. 1! That's the answer. Listen, Baker Mayfield's a really good quarterback. Lamar, obviously, a better quarterback. But I think the Browns' upside with the pocket passer versus Lamar and his kind of weaknesses in the playoffs, especially if they fall behind. Those numbers are well documented. He does not play well from behind. I'm going to give a slight lean to Baker Mayfield, but that's not a knock on the Ravens or Lamar. Please don't take it that way, Rick Bucher.
J-Mac, you were on the right trail, and then you suddenly took a hard left turn. Yes, it is about the team and the franchise as much as it is about the quarterback. Lamar Jackson is the better quarterback. We're not going to argue that. But the Baltimore Ravens are also the better organization. The Baltimore Ravens know how to build a Super Bowl team because they've done it. John Harbaugh knows how to coach a Super Bowl winning team because he has done it. Now, for all that the Browns have put together, and I admire what Stefanski and that group have put together, we're getting way over our skis about the fact that they made the playoffs for the first time since 2002, and they won their first playoff game since 1994. There's no institutional history or knowledge about how to win successfully in the postseason. And let's not make too much of the win over the Pittsburgh Steelers, okay? The one win that they had, because the Pittsburgh Steelers came out and played that game as if they'd had a kegger in the pregame warm-up.
Yeah, no doubt.
They handed that game over at the very beginning. And then the Browns get to the Chiefs, and they get to play against a team without Patrick Mahomes, and they can't get the job done. So let's just slow our roll on how dynamic the Browns are. And you made it sound, J-Mac, if I'm not mistaken, like it's all or none this coming season. Like the Browns are going to win or have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl this season than the Baltimore Ravens, and that's going to determine whether Baker or Lamar wins a Super Bowl first. And I don't think that's the question. It's simply a matter of who's going to win one first. And again, because of Baltimore's history, I'm going to give them the nod over the Cleveland Browns.
Have Super Bowls.
All right, coming up, Matthew Stafford is ready for the bright lights in L.A., but we'll tell you if the Bucs should be worried about the Rams. Next on Speak for Yourself.
Hey, how many The Bucs are the defending champs, but the Rams could get in their way this season. Matthew Stafford did not win a playoff game with the Lions, but after the big trade to the Rams, he said he wants to play in the big moments rather than a 1 o'clock game on Sunday somewhere. Rick, should the Bucs be worried about the Rams in the NFC?
Worried, concerned, whatever word you want to put on it. Yes, they should be worried. The Rams had the #1 scoring defense last year. They had the number 10 rushing offense in TDs and yardage. The big hole in their game was they couldn't pass the ball into the end zone, 26th in passing TDs. That is what Matt Stafford is supposed to provide. I have every reason to believe him in saying, hey, I've always wanted to do this. I just needed the chance. He's going to get it with the Rams. So I look at everything that they have. The one thing that they were missing was somebody who could throw the ball in the end zone successfully. Matt Stafford's going to get a chance to do that. Based on his abilities, have every reason to believe that he could very well deliver. So yes, Tampa Bay Buccaneers should consider the Rams a threat.
I love how Rick gasses up the Rams defense. Like they didn't lose their defensive coordinator, 2 starters from the secondary. The defense is coming back to earth, Rick. That being said, I do love your points about Stafford. He's really going to unlock a new element to McVay's offense because McVay didn't trust Goff to throw the deep ball last year. It was all dink and dunk. I love this Stafford pairing with the Rams, but the reason I've been reluctant to give my answer is because no. You think Tampa Bay, can I call him Tampa Bay, is worried about the Rams? The burden of proof is on the newcomer. You got to prove to me that you can step into the ring with me, first of all. You can't just climb into the ring with Ali. And that's what Tampa is right now, okay? Defending Super Bowl champions. All 22 starters are back. Matt Stafford's never won a playoff game. I mean, I'm not saying he can't. I like Stafford and the Rams a lot in the NFC, but worried? Tom Brady should laugh this off. Yeah, we're not worried about Matt Stafford and the Rams.
Well, sometimes you got to worry about
That's how Mike Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas.
Well, and listen, for what it's worth, Buster Douglas might be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, I mean, let's be clear here. They got 1 Super Bowl, and we need to know if they can continue to be Super Bowl champs. Well, we're gonna have to wait and see. That they just got it. So, to my point, sometimes you got to worry about what you don't know.
Is Tom Brady still alive, LeVar Arrington?
Yes, he is.
Stop it, Buster Douglas.
I mean, you make a good point.
He's also 44.
Point. But we got to see if they can come back and do it again. That's the mark and the sign of if you can defend your title. And they should be worried about title contenders. This Rams team has made it to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff, a different guy that isn't quite the quarterback that Matthew Stafford is. I don't know what they're going to be with, they got Sony Michel now. Does that make their backfield better? Is their offensive line going to be better? We know their defense is great, but we don't know what they're going to be. But they could be really great or they could be really bad. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'll tell you this. One thing I do know, we're going to talk about LeBron James. Coming up next, LeBron James. He's got a new big three, but we'll tell you if the Lakers are more hype than substance next on Speak for Yourself.
Go! Dwight Howard is back with the Lakers, and it's easy to tell he's excited about their new big three. Howard said it will be crazy and hard to fathom, adding, quote, just imagine seeing all of us on the floor at the same time. So, Jason, will the Lakers be more hype than substance?
Yeah, they're going to be more hype, Rick. I don't like big three. Can you recant that? Because Russ is not big. He's just a guy who puts up a ton of stats.
I didn't say it. Dwight didn't.
Yeah, okay. All right, I don't either. Hey, and Rick, by the way, the show's almost over. I need to apologize for putting you in a body bag earlier on the show.
Oh.
I didn't mean to. I'm coming strong. We had a lot of fun. LeVar's over here egging me on. Anyways, Lakers, more hype for sure than substance.
Didn't happen. Didn't happen.
I'll just say very quickly.
I'm good. This is a suit, not a body bag.
They're more substance than they are hype. You know why? Because they're getting hyped up to be too old and not good enough. So whatever it is that they do, it's going to be a whole bunch of substance.
Yeah, Dwight was right. It's hard to imagine seeing them all on the floor at the same time because they're old.
That's it for us, everybody. Have a great weekend. Lakers are winning the title next year. You know that, right?